Hey everyone, welcome to my podcast on Othello. Today we're going to talk about some of the past performances of Othello, including the very first performance of Othello, some more recent performances of Othello, also some movie adaptations of Othello, and where I see Othello going in the future according to my research. So the first thing we're going to talk about is some of the very first performance of Othello that was recorded. It was on November 1st, 1604, and it was done by Shakespeare's company called The King's Men. The lead actor was Richard Burbage, who actually performed Othello in blackface. The plays back then were very focused on emotion. A lot of people were leaving the plays with tears in their eyes, crying. Lots of emotion was being taken out of the audience, but also portrayed by the actors back then. The title role, so in this case Othello, would be dominating the play. This is unlike how plays are today, where they're more focused on everyone bringing something to the table. Of course, the title role is still very important, but the supporting characters and main characters also have a very important role in plays these days to bring everything to life. A cool fact was in 1825, Ira Aldridge was the first person to play Othello who was a person of color. He was a black man, and he played Othello on the London stage. So before that, it was all played by white actors in blackface. He was the first one who was actually a person of color to play Othello. A little before this, though, in 1814, there was Edmund Kean, and he played Othello, but he decided to not play Othello in blackface like the others before him. And this stirred the debate on skin color and the depiction of Othello, and if he should be played by a person of color, a black man, or a more olive-colored man, basically like how Othello should appear. And that's a debate that still goes on in today's society. In the article that I researched called Emblems of Folly in the first Othello, the author talked about how the BBC Shakespeare director shared a comment on this, on the Edmund Kean not being in blackface and whether it should be played by a black actor or not, or in blackface. So the director of the BBC Shakespeare, Jonathan Miller at the time, said, when a black actor does the part, it offsets the play, puts it out of balance. It makes it a play about blackness, which it is not. And to me, this comment was very interesting because today's main thought when people think about Othello is about race and who should play Othello and that kind of thing. There's a lot of debates on that. So it's a big part of Othello now when it gets talked about. So for him to say that it's not about race and that it puts it out of balance is really odd, because it also is a play about race if you look at it in the words, maybe not as intense as people are making it these days with the depiction of Othello and whether or not he should be depicted in a certain way, but it does have race as a theme. A more recent version of Othello that was done in 2016 was done by the Marin Shakespeare Company, and they took risks in casting by hiring Damian Browne to play Othello, and this was a risk because Damian Browne was formerly incarcerated before he got out and did this play, so it made people very weary of if the play was going to be good, if he was going to be able to do a good job, but also made the company weary about their own views. So, like, if people were going to think different of them because they did this, if this was something they wanted to continue on to do as a company, if this was something they actually really did want to go through with. And they did end up going through with it in the end. And the producer, Lesley Currier, was told that Damien brought a wealth of life experience, emotional vulnerability, powerful self-expression, and a natural stage presence to the role. And many of the people who saw the play told her that he was one of the best Othellos they've seen in a long time. So I think this performance was very important to bring up because it shows that Othello is still bringing debates. Othello is still making people question how they represent it and if it's going to do what they want it to do if they represent it in that way. And I think that that's really important for later when I talk about where I think or where I would like to see Othello go in a more modern version. The next thing to talk about are some of the movies. So the first movie was Laurence Olivier's Othello in 1965, where he was in blackface. And a lot of people criticize this movie because they feel like the racial stereotypes were very brought up in this version of Othello, that he was acting and gesturing and talking in ways that were stereotyped to the black community. So people felt like that was the main goal of it, and it kind of took away from the performance. The next one was Anthony Hopkins in 1981, and he did not do blackface. He played just a tanner version of Othello, and it was focused more on the jealousy aspect and theme of the play than it was based on race, kind of how the one before it made it kind of all about race, when it didn't need to be like that. There was another one in 1988 by Janet Suzman. It was filmed for a Channel 4 production in the UK at the Marketplace Theatre, addressing the racial politics as the forefront of the play. Another one in 1989 by Trevor Nunn, and that was in Stratford-upon-Avon, and it cast a Jamaican opera singer in the role of Othello. And Nunn also casts a black actress in the role of Bianca. So we have here in this one people with more of a background kind of being cast, which shows that we're moving towards the right place, even though it's seen that Bianca was maybe cast as a black woman, not to be like progressive in a way, but more to kind of show that that's who Cassio, he wants Desdemona, and Desdemona was portrayed as a white woman, but he has to live with Bianca, and Bianca being portrayed as a black woman, so kind of in not a great way, but yeah, still wanted to bring it up. In 2001, there was an ITV PBS version by Jeffrey Sachs that takes place in London. That's kind of a modernization of Othello, where they're on the police force. The main character is still, his last name is Othello, but him and Iago in that version, they're on the police force, so it's more of in a modern way, not really in a play to movie version like the ones before. And then of course in 2001, Tim Blake Nelson's O, that takes place in the prep school setting, and he's a basketball star, but it's also said that the author said that it embodies social and cultural recognition that might only come through physical achievement, which implies becoming the school's property. So in that way, he's still seen as property, not necessarily like a star in his own light. Some ways that I would love to see Othello modernized, especially for the way that we are in our society right now with the Black Lives Matter movement, and a lot of younger generations opening their minds, and maybe trying to get the older generations to also open their minds to see the race problems we have in society. I would love to see a all black or people of color cast of Othello, kind of like how they did with Hamilton, bring it out, modernize it a little bit, put it out on streaming services, that kind of stuff. And I think that that would really go a long way, not only giving more roles to black actors in this play and not just sticking them in the main role of Othello, but having them in every role. I think it would really take it back to the meaning of the play and the emotion, and not so focused on race, but also could still show how far we've come, kind of with the debates on Othello. So I think that that would be really cool. Also, some more modern wording of Othello, because a lot of the words in Othello obviously are from when it was written, which kind of had different connotations in today's setting, but it would also make it a lot easier for younger generations to maybe understand it better and to get more of a meaning out of Othello. So I really see Othello continuing to go far, people continuing to take risks like the 2016 theater, and hopefully it gets to a place where Othello is not always seen in a bad light because of the blackface that comes with it. But yeah, that's just a little of what I researched and where I think it's going. I hope you learned a little bit from my podcast. I hope you enjoyed my podcast. I enjoyed researching about it. I really love productions, plays, everything like that. I love seeing books and things that are written come to life. So that's why I really wanted to talk about how far we have come and these presentations of Othello. Again, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much.